And now we've got Congressman Andy Biggs from the great state of Arizona. He's a member of the House Judiciary Committee and the House Oversight Committee. More importantly, I love talking to him and the members of the House Freedom Caucus and the House Border Caucus. They really care about America. They really care about fighting the good fight for you. Thanks for being with me today, Congressman.
Sarah, it's always good to be with you. This is one of the happiest places in the universe is when I'm with you on your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. It's funny because Laura Ingraham, she would say, "You're my happy warrior." I like to think of myself as a happy warrior right now because we have so many very real, very, I think, heavy issues and crisis facing our nation, not just, from thousands of miles away in the war in Ukraine and what's happening there. But I'm talking about right here on the homeland with the border, Congressman. You're a member of the House Judiciary Committee, House Oversight, Government Reform Committee. You're also the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus and the co-chair of the House Border Caucus. And I don't think there's anything more important right now than what is happening on our border.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, and we spent, I don't know how many hours yesterday, 10, 12 hours in Judiciary Committee, and the distinction between the Republicans understanding what's going on in the border and the Democrats is so stark. They don't, I think a lot of them understand what's on the border, the Democrats, they don't care. They want this. And that is the distinction that we have. And one of our members yesterday said, this is reflective of the values that you have versus the values that we have. I don't think they love the country. I really don't. I mean, I think that they're fine to eliminate the Westphalian style nation state and the sovereignty of our country.
I agree with you on that. But one of the things that I've come to believe, Congressman, is that the border, what is happening there is actually done on purpose, that the administration right now, the Democrats, have created a crisis, have created a situation that is damaging our nation, that is destroying the fabric of our country, that is causing a humanitarian crisis in the Western Hemisphere. And I got to ask you this, and creating a national security crisis and humanitarian crisis in the United States as well. That's number one. The money that is being allocated by the Biden administration, all those hundreds of millions of dollars, and I would say even going into the past, even the Bush administration, I'm going to throw them in there too, Obama administration, I didn't see it in the Trump administration. But all the money that was being allocated to Central America and Mexico to resolve the so-called border crises ended up in the pockets of NGOs and people we don't even know. We can't even monitor that money. I know foreign governments that are having a hard time monitoring where that money goes. Do you think some of this money is being laundered through these NGOs? I mean, in a manufactured crisis, and people are lining their pockets with it? What's going on here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, whenever there's a ton of money that floats out there somewhere, bad people will find a way to get their hands on that money. I mean, they want it. So I think we fund NGOs that are actually recruiting people to come to this country illegally. I believe that. We do that through grants and that type of process. In the meantime, though, we indirectly are funding the cartel's operation everywhere we go. So I mean, you got that. Then you have corrupt governments. I mean, what about Honduras? I mean, we're funneling money down to Honduras, right, et cetera. Turns out that the former president was, he's got a drug distribution problem. That the problem being that he's the one distributing the drugs. I mean, this notion that you can go down and buy, because that's what this is about. These guys think you can buy good government. And if you have good government, people will stay in those nations. And if you Kamala Harris, she believes that if you can fix climate change, people will stay in their nations. But that aside, the reality is that isn't the problem. That isn't what's happening here. We are taking in the best and the worst, quite frankly, of so many nations. And if those nations are going to succeed, they need both there, because they need to punish the worst and cultivate the best.
Absolutely. When I was in Guatemala a few years ago, some towns were almost emptied out. And in other cases, it wasn't just that the towns were emptied out. I was very curious about how in one case, and this was during the Trump administration, when all of the caravan was heading towards the U.S., it was a big, bold political statement. I remember Trump said, "We are not going to let them in." And they were coming across the border, and I was standing right there on the border. All men, a lot of them appeared to have gang tattoos, MS-13. And I thought to myself, because the majority were men, are they dumping their prisons? Are people dumping the prisons? Because I don't know where these men came from. I would ask them, how did you join this caravan? Where did you come from? Who gave you the new backpacks? Why are you carrying brand new flags? What's going on here? I almost felt that these people were being used, this one group in particular, to walk towards the U.S. and as a bold statement for some kind of political nefarious purpose, whether that was for Central American governments or whether that was for our own or both. Something is going on. And I believe that the majority of lawmakers, like you said, are not doing their job to figure out why this is happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's a different class too that's coming through right now, Sarah, down in Yuma. Here's what's happening. Some of these people, they're impatient. They want to be released into the U.S. immediately, right? They've got credit cards. So they say, well, we're going to release you into Yuma, and the NGO has no room for them. They'll go to a hotel, stay in the hotel. They'll be getting on a bus to be transported. They get Uber Eats delivered to them. They're paying with credit cards. This is not the caravan of 2019. These are people coming. They step across the river, and they've got new roller boards. They take off the traveling clothes, put on new clothes. They got a cell phone. They don't need to have a cell phone because the Biden administration said they're going to start giving everybody a cell phone.
Right.
They've got a cell phone, and they're FaceTiming the people back home. Hey, I made it. And I will tell you, sir, you've been there so many times, and I've been there so many times. I have watched people walk up. They can't believe how easy it is to walk across our border. I've actually seen them walk up to the Border Patrol agents or sheriff's deputies and say, "Where's the border? Where's America? You're in America. You've been in America for 10 minutes. What? I'm in America? It was that easy? Of course it was that easy. You paid your money to the cartel, or now you're going to be an indentured servant to the cartel, provide criminal activity for them, and pay."
Mm-hmm. Where the crime continues to be committed in the United States against American citizens.
Yeah, and it's so open that even the people coming across cannot believe, whoa, I can't believe it. That was easy. It's easier to get it here than to the United States illegally than to get into Disneyland these days.
That's a great point. That is a great point. We're going to go to Disneyland in a minute because I'm going to ask you about all the kind of new wokeness that's happening.
Oh no, I triggered.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about that. I'm not going to let you off the hook with that. And I was going to say, what was interesting, I was reading a story, and for the life of me, I can't remember where I was reading it now, but there was a family that came across our border, and half of the family were Canadian citizens. Half of the children. So what had happened was they realized it would be easier than applying for a visa and trying to get in. So when the father had to cross illegally, the family was from Africa. The father came through Mexico. They sent the kids to Mexico that were already in Canada to cross with the dad illegally into the United States so that they could all just become U.S. citizens. This is absolute insanity right now. And they're going to remove Title 42. They're going to remove Title 42. May 23rd, it's over. So what do you think is going to happen then?
I've already been talking to line agents down around the country, and what they're all telling me the same thing, that this is going to explode it. Because, Sarah, in just the first 2 weeks of March, they encountered 100,000 people. They sent 50,000 of them away under Title 42. The other 50,000 are now roaming around the United States. But they at least got half out on Title 42. what's going to happen is, and in a normal month now, we're getting 200,000 apprehensions. So that number is going to increase to probably 300,000 to 400,000, and nobody's going to be turned away under Title 42. This administration won't use Remain in Mexico policy. They're doing 9 people a day, by the way, Sarah, under MPP program. 9 a day, whereas Trump was doing literally hundreds a day, keeping people out. And so what's going to happen, in my opinion, you're going to be north of 400,000, maybe 500,000. I mean, the estimates is, and this is not a ceiling. This is kind of the floor, is 18,000. That's the floor they think they're going a day. That's a day. You're going to be getting 600,000 people apprehended every month going forward. And
that's just not sustainable.
No.
There is not a nation, our taxpayer dollars, our children, our nation's national security. I got to tell you this. We're looking right now, I'm looking at death tolls in Ukraine. I'm just going to bring this up because I want to get your opinion on this. And it deals with the border. I'm seeing right now in Mariupol, there might be 5,000 Ukrainians. Their United Nations office said that between February 24th and March 23rd, 1,035 civilians were killed, 1,650 injured. Maybe with the Russians, a little bit more. There's different estimates. Some are saying up to 16,000 Russians wounded, 3,400 possibly injured, and 1,400 killed. Those are Russians. Now, all of that combined doesn't even come close to the 100,000 Americans that have been killed by fentanyl poisoning or heroin overdose in our nation. And many of them young children and people's parents and brothers and sisters. And I've spoken to families who had no idea how bad it was until after someone in their family died or accidentally took a pill that they thought was a prescription and died of a fentanyl overdose. Over 100,000 Americans here in the United States. And that's just the bottom of the barrel because all the kids that are killing each other in the middle of our urban cities, fighting drug wars, the drug cartels owning part of our territory across America from Georgia to Ohio to California. There is a war in America and no one's even paying attention to it.
I'm with you on that. I get castigated because I think we should be focusing on our border, our cities, our crime, our people here, solving our problems. And quite frankly, this notion that we're going to heal other governments that we think are corrupt, when in my opinion our government's corrupt, and we've got to clean up our own mess here, is absolutely ludicrous. Now, you got to say this: there was no provocation for Russia to enter Ukraine at all. There was no provocation, and this is outrageous. And if war crimes have been committed, then they need to be, Putin and company will be brought to bear. But the bottom line is this: you mentioned fentanyl deaths. Just the other day, you had an illegal alien kill 3 people in Florida. Drunk driver killed 3 people in a crash. We're not even talking about the 120 plus individuals died in the deserts of one Texas county last year trying to get across. This happens all over the place. What's happening is inhumane. You've heard of the rape trees, but I don't know if you...
Right.
But there's also the thing with this incident that Sheriff Mark Lamb told me about. His deputies basically were rescuing a lost lady in the desert. She has a bag of pills. By the way, Arizona alone, 13 million fentanyl pills last year. 40% of all fentanyl pills are lethal, according to DEA. So they wonder so it makes, law enforcement says, well, what do you have? And she says, well, these are morning after pills. Well, why are you carrying these? Well, she said, I knew that I would be raped repeatedly, but, and I find myself saying, I'm just so outraged by this. She thought she would be raped repeatedly, which she was. She wanted a morning after pill. And who's raping her? The same dogs that she's paying money to bring her across. And this This inhumanity is that's not a one-off story. This is what's happening daily on our border.
I was just with Texas DPS up in the mountains in Big Bend National Park here in Texas. The people that we're coming across are the people that do not want to be caught, or the people that are moving others over those mountains, and they really don't either care about them or they're just taking their money. They abandoned an 18-year-old girl, this one smuggler. The DPS rescued her off the top of a 1,000-foot mountain while I was with them. 18 years old, obviously had been accosted by these smugglers and these human traffickers. But the people that were coming across, these aren't like good guys.
Right.
These are men dressed in camo, scaling the mountains in Big Bend in the middle of the night like an army, and our fixed wing aircraft with their ISR capabilities are literally taking pictures of these guys, hoping that sometime in the morning they'll be able to apprehend them with Border Patrol before they reach I-90 and end up in our country. That's crazy. That's crazy that we have people scaling our mountains in camo with narcotics or God knows whatever else, because we don't know who they're bringing across. They could be moving a terrorist for all we know. We've seen them come across the border. And no one seems to be, I don't know, on Capitol Hill outraged about that other than you and those members of the Border Caucus and people that have been screaming mad about this. What is it going to take for someone to pay attention to the border?
It's going to take a full-on regime change. Look, we had Mayorkas come to the Border Security Caucus, which I was surprised he would agree to, but he came in the other day. And they have no plan on what they're going to do after Title 42. They are basically content with an open border. It's the same old garbage. What's your plan? Well, our plan is we're going to keep working with, if you have to stop them at your border, you'll never get border security. So we're going to talk to Mexico, work with Mexico and the Northern Triangle states. That's garbage. That's garbage. You can do that. You keep working with them. You have to, but you had better build your fence. You had better stand up from the rooftops and say, you're not coming in. And if you come here illegally, we don't care what your story is. We're sending you home. Until you do that, the world will come. 157 nations have come this year.
And you can see our enemies are already taking advantage of that. They're already both China, Russia, anybody, Iran, terrorists, anybody who understands what's happening in our country is taking advantage of it. I want to ask you about something else that I think is really important before I let you go. I want to ask you about this wokeness at Disney. I was in Orlando for Sean this week. I was talking to families that I spoke to, even foreigners. Although one foreign family they were from Wales, they were just railing on Disney, and I thought it was about the wokeness, but it was actually about the long lines and how horrible it was, and that they would go back home and tell everybody how horrible it was. And I was like, oh, so you're mad about the logistics, not about the wokeness. And she's like, oh, yes, she had no idea what I was talking about. So, but most American families and people that were from overseas that had heard about it were stunned. They were like angry. They were upset. People were canceling their Disney subscriptions. They said they weren't going to Disneyland. The people that I spoke to that were there, that they had canceled their plans to go and that they weren't going to, give money to Disney. What is happening? Do you think Americans are waking up, or do you think that the power of these corporations is going to be so much that it's going to squeeze maybe the American people that we used to call like the silent majority, or will the silent majority just wake up and say no more?
Well, I think people are awakening. I mean, we saw it with this school curriculum, the woke school curriculum. There's others, everything from CRT to transgender type of education curricula out there. So when you see this, we are in a culture war right now. We are in an absolute culture war. And the problem with our companies is that you look at Disney, it's huge. It's not just an amusement park company. They are one of the biggest film distributors and producers in the world. They also own media outlets of all kinds, TV outlets, cable, social media. They're involved in everything, and in being involved in everything, you saw. I don't know if you saw this yesterday and the day before. There's some surreptitious recordings of producers and whatnot for Disney that talk about how they were trying to basically groom, through their materials, and you look at it and you say, how can we let this stand? And because this is undermining the values. I don't think it's just going to be an ongoing culture war, and as people wake up, hopefully the silent majority will wake up. I think those are the people that are part of the 75% of Americans who say we're on the wrong path. It's everything from the economy to the culture wars to the border to being unsafe in your community to this notion that I got to go pay every time they go to the pump. They say it's for. But my wife told me yesterday. She's in Arizona. I'm here. She's in D.C. She said she filled up and it was just under $5 a gallon. This is in the Phoenix metro area, and
it's crazy. I fill up my tank because I travel all over the country and I rent cars when I travel for Fox, and I just can't even believe it. $7.99 in California in some places. A gallon, 5 something a gallon. I saw $8.29 a gallon in Wyoming.
Whoa.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. That was on a long highway for people that were not smart enough to know that just 15 miles further. That's where they get you. That's where the highway robbery sign came from, right there. And I have been a victim of that, believe me. Well, I wanted to ask you this because I want to go back to the border really quick. Just want to get your reaction because I forgot all about this. I don't know how, but to Texas Governor Greg Abbott's plan to bus all the illegal migrants to Washington, D.C. Now, I don't know how that'll make you feel. Are you going to go out and hand out baggies like welcome packages when they show up at the border caucus? Or send them to Nancy Pelosi's office?
Yeah, welcome to D.C. Now go home kind of thing, There's the old thing that, we're glad you're here, go home. I think it's a brilliant idea. And I listened to that committee hearing because somebody brought it up. And the Democrats are like, well, that would be abduction, that would be kidnapping. And I'm like, no, he said they're going to volunteer. We'll send you to D.C. Get on our bus. We'll take you to D.C. Let them do it. Let the people here see a little bit of it. I mean, even the El Paso rep doesn't. I don't think she has any clue as to what's happening. And Mayorkas, what did they do last week? Hey, we want politically correct pronoun use. That's going to actually bring the border under control. When they come in illegally, we're going to ask them, what are your preferred pronouns?
Yeah, what are your preferred? Are you just call them humans? Welcome humans.
Welcome humans.
Or are they not human anymore? Because maybe they think they're a cat or a dog. I don't know. And then we've got to call them a feline. But it is kind of crazy. What you should do, and this is just an idea, I'm just throwing it out there. You should get on the House floor and offer the Democrats an opportunity to put their money where their mouth is and say, with all a lot of you have homes here in Washington, D.C. I think because you care so much about illegals wanting to come in and you expect the American people to put up with it, you should offer a room in your home and sponsor an illegal family or a single male adult or a child, with a mother, and you should open your house to them. Yeah. I just think put your money where your mouth is. You expect Americans to live with people that haven't been vetted. Let them live with you and see how you like it. See if they replace the food in the fridge or return Nancy's ice cream or make sure it's closed when she puts it in there.
That's where she draws the line. That expensive ice cream. Nobody's getting that but her. Look, yeah. I mean, I wanted
or her
to do
vodka.
That.
I'm just kidding.
I understand that you like a root beer float. You might make a vodka float. I don't know.
A vodka. They charge money for those.
Oh, is that right? Really?
Yeah, they're making them now. Only Tito's vodka, though, not Russian vodka.
Well, speaking of Russia, you now have an influx of Russian folks coming to the border. I got a picture from a guy down there this week, and he said it looks like the Eastern Bloc has arrived in Yuma. I mean, it's just you had Uzbekistan, all this,
And you don't know because you have people from Ukraine, you have people from Russia, but you have people from Chechnya, you have people from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. Look, we don't have Border Patrol agents that speak every single language and understand cultural differences in the language or idiosyncrasies. We just don't know who these people are. We just don't know. If they come over and they're like, I am not Russian, I am from Mexico, then we could be like, oh, yeah, no. No. We don't believe that, but they're not going to be that obvious, right?
Well, but it wouldn't matter because the instructions from Homeland Security is you take them, if they don't have ID, you ask them and they'll tell you, and then you believe them. And
right.
We don't have these databases on everybody. If somebody has committed a crime in some country, we may have no access to know what that crime was, or anything like that. And that's just the people that we apprehend. What you said earlier was so true. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people coming in potentially with malevolent intentions. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know what they want to do.
And we don't know if they made it to Highway 90 and jumped in the back of a semi-truck, that was waiting for them on the edge of the road at 5 a.m. in the morning, and they made their way over that mountainside at Big Bend National Park, and then they're gone. They disappear into the fabric. So we would have no idea. So basically, our lawmakers are saying that their most fundamental job, that our founding fathers, and I'm talking about the Biden administration and the Democrats, and some Republicans that don't care, maybe Mitt Romney, I don't know. But they, that they are saying that they are not going to do the most fundamental job, which is all they have to do is make sure that Americans are protected, that our national security is the main focus, so that, stay out of our lives, stay out of our states, let the states do their thing, stay out of our business, stop trying to, own us and, give us free things so that you can own us. Get out of that. Just protect our nation. And they don't even want to do that. They want to protect Ukraine. Okay, fine. I get it. I get that Russia's a bad, he's a bad hombre, Vladimir Putin. But guess what? Guess what? We have people here that want to harm our own children and are literally killing us in our streets. Before I let you go, what is to you the most important, like if you can name 3 top priorities come November 20, November midterm elections that you see for the Republican Party, 3 top priorities, and do you think we will take back the House and the Senate?
I think we'll take back the House. Some of this stuff I'm seeing makes me think we might actually take the Senate back. I mean, in a more than just by a couple seats even. I think this red wave may be a real thing. I've been very skeptical of it, Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. But the 3 top priorities, I'll tell you what people are telling me. I mean, people on the street, they are concerned as anything about inflation and the economy. They're scared to death. They're scared to death. I got fixed income retirees in my district, and they're like, they used to go out to eat for $15 for 2 of them, and now it's $30. They can't do that. They're having trouble making ends meet and getting the groceries they need, going where they need to go. So it's income and economy. The second thing is this border issue is huge. People are really concerned about it, and they're properly linking it to crime, the crime that's coming over, and then the third thing is they're concerned, and I've got suburban districts, and I've got a lot of suburban moms and housewives, and they're in the district, and they're concerned about the indoctrination in our schools. What they want is they want to make sure that their kids getting the best education, not indoctrination. They want to see the curriculum. You've got school districts in Arizona that won't let the parents see the curriculum. They won't let them know what's being taught. They want transparency. So they want educational freedom. And right now, you're still sitting about a quarter of all of Arizona's students are in some alternative education deal. And if this keeps up, I would imagine you're going to see that exodus from the traditional public schools increase, because simply you can't keep doing this and offending parents by telling them that we know more about your kid and what your kid should know than you. It's a values thing. Parents know what values they have. The educators don't give a rip about those parents' values or the values at home. They want to inculcate and indoctrinate in their own values.
That's absolutely right. And, there are a lot of mama bears out there, people that have not bought into that, communist, Marxist, leftist ideology that's been implemented in our universities across America. And I'm telling you, the conservative mama bears out there have a big voice. That's what we saw in Loudoun County. That's what we're going to see across the United States. And I think that if the lawmakers can rally, especially the Republicans, can rally the moms across the country, the red wave is going to be bigger than anything they've ever seen. Because education is going to be, I agree with you, one of the top priorities, the economy and the border. You're 100% right. Thank you so much for being on the show, Congressman. I love having you on. This is great. I can't wait to bring you back on to catch up, but I really do appreciate everything you're doing to fight for us up on Capitol Hill.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for all you do. I mean, we love watching you all over the world. And this is one of the best times I have is talking to you. And thank goodness our conversations before we do this are not ever put on. So that's good.
That's what everybody wants to hear. But we just know we would upset the snowflakes. No.
Absolutely, we would.